tenemos como invitado a Mahatma Das. Mahatma Das es un gurú, un líder espiritual y maestro dentro de la Sociedad Internacional para la Consciencia de Krishna. Es conocido por sus enseñanzas sobre la conciencia espiritual y la práctica del Bhakti Yoga, que es la devoción y el amor hacia Dios, hacia Krishna. También es autor de libros como Japa Transformations, The Art of Forgiveness Workbook y Your Best is Good Enough. Mahatma ofrece conferencias y seminarios alrededor del mundo para promover la vida espiritual y los valores de la conciencia de Krishna. Acompáñanos a descubrir sobre su vida, su misión y su camino. Welcome and thank you.
My pleasure.
We are honored.
Happy to be here in your new house.
Thank you. Well, this is Oscar, my partner, and a great friend, and everyone here knows Mahatma. But for those who doesn't know you, we would like you to share a little bit about you.
Okay, well, when I was 19, I read a book called Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of all the wisdom of India, and it changed my life. I was a university student, and I had a lot of questions about life, like who am I, and why am I here, where did I come from, what happens after death, and Bhagavad Gita answered all those questions. And I was not pursuing a career because I couldn't pursue a career unless I felt I knew why I existed. Wow. You know, like some people feel like drawn to a certain career because of their nature, but I felt whatever my nature is, if I don't know why I exist, then what's the point of doing anything? So Bhagavad Gita resonated with me. And I felt like a greater mission in life would be to teach it, learn it, practice it, live it, and teach it. And I dropped out of university. Many great people have dropped out of university. You know some of them, like Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. So, you know, I'm in good company. But I pursued a different path. And then from that point, I began traveling the world, teaching what I was learning, trying to perfect what I was learning. And about 20 years ago, I started a company where I took those teachings out to the world in a way that average people could live like a monk, so to speak, or think like a monk in their daily life and live a better life. So what I learned as a monk, I had to apply in my life because I married. And people have so many problems, as we know, and there are solutions to these problems. So I feel like honored, gifted, that I can offer these solutions because these are very high-level consciousness solutions. Yeah. And it's not something someone just came up with. These are like principles that are, we could say in a sense, eternal. Bhagavad Gita is 5,000 years old, but that knowledge was many thousands of years older than that. It's like it's been handed down by spiritual teachers for thousands and thousands of years.
And still works.
Yeah, and it is present and is a gift for humanity.
Yes,
That's how I see those spiritual books. Those are gifts, and we get to learn that, and we get to appreciate every culture on that.
And especially you realize they're gifts when you live them.
Oh yeah, sure, because you can receive, and you can, what I said, like connect.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was really surprised, and it really blew my mind when I was, reading some of the literature about you on your webpage, and I read your mission statement, and I felt like, wow, you say words like weapons, and like this is a war, and your teaching are like weapons, and it's kind of strange because in these times of madness, everyone it's like in war with everyone. So I wanted to ask you about it. Why it's a war, and who is against whom?
Well, in the book Bhagavad Gita, it gives the analogy that knowledge is like a sword, and you're fighting ignorance. So ignorance is all around us, and we we all feel it. We all feel the way the world is pushing us. And if we are pushed to do things, I mean, sometimes we're pushed to do things, and we cause ourselves misery. You know, the very things we're doing are causing ourselves unhappiness. So there's an energy of ignorance that's pulling us away from ourself. And knowledge is the weapon, because when you have knowledge, you have light, you can see where to go. So in that sense, we see knowledge as a weapon to fight through the ignorance that's naturally all around us. Just like we have education because we're in ignorance, spiritually there's also ignorance. And so if you don't have the right knowledge, thus the right weapon, then you don't know how to get yourself out of that ignorance. And then you kind of perpetually live your life the same way. It doesn't work, and you keep doing the same thing or a variation of the same thing. And sometimes the more we try to get better, the worse it gets, because we don't know. It's like you're going somewhere and you're lost. And the faster you go, the more lost you get.
The more lost you get. Yeah.
So
this, from my point of view, I really think that there is a war between. I don't know if it's good or evil.
Yeah.
I don't wanna conceive it like that. But I started looking at some issues around the world, and it feels like there is some kind of force that it's going against a lot of us, like the spiritual or these religious beings.
Yeah, that's kind of a perpetual situation. You know, there are always people who are more inclined to the spiritual, and there are always people who don't like that people are inclined to the spiritual. There's always people that want to do good for the world, and there's always people that want to exploit others for their own advantage. And so those forces are always at odds, and the world's always been this way, you know, light and dark. You can call it good and bad, whatever you want, but we see that some people, by nature, want to help others. They're compassionate. They're more inclined towards spiritual things. And others are more inclined to destructive things, exploiting the earth, creating companies and products which are unhealthy, but that enrich themselves. And obviously there's people who would never do that. They would never create products that are bad for people. They would only want to create products that will uplift people. So this is always going on, this energy. And so people who are spiritual teachers, they understand it is kind of a war in a sense, because the more people that stand for goodness, for spirituality, the more light there is in the world. Like sometimes when we're chanting mantras, we understand we're not just chanting for ourselves, but that mantra will go around the world and it will uplift the world. We uplift ourselves, the mantra uplifts others. So it's kind of like, you know, the word light workers, you know, people who are working with light. And so, you know, they understand, you know, I mean, look at the world, it's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
And in my life, I've seen that polarization become stronger. More people interested in spirituality and more people against it. And it's, you know, I'm 74, so I've had 74 years to watch it, and it's just getting, you know, people say, well, it seems like the world's more spiritual, but it seems like the world's more materialistic. And the answer is, yeah, you're right, both. It's happening more and more. So the people who are inclined towards spirituality, especially the teachers and so forth, they have a big job, because we see where the materialism is going, the atheism, the denial of a supreme intelligence, and replacing it with science, and, you know, we can solve all the problems of the world. But you actually see the world becomes more degraded with that consciousness. And the more there's a disbelief in a supreme creator or higher consciousness, we see the more degraded people come. And the more degraded they become, the more problems are there. And then they tend to want to utilize materialism, which caused the problem, to solve the problem. So just downward spiral.
Yeah, it's a never-ending story.
Yeah, and you already talk about these mantras and some things that sounds like those weapons that you mentioned. And In your experience, in your path, which are those weapons that people who wants to follow a light path or an, I don't know, a consciousness path?
Yeah. There's several things. Number one, like we said, there has to be knowledge. We have to, well, who am I as a spiritual being, and how do I realize I'm a spiritual being? What are the practices to realize it? And as you mentioned, mantra is one of the practices. And mantra is a practice which is purifying our consciousness. So we have a pure state of consciousness, but it becomes contaminated living in this world for lifetime after lifetime, like water is contaminated. So you filter water. And filtered water tastes good, and unfiltered water doesn't. So when you experience your own consciousness in a materially contaminated state, you're also experiencing your own lust, anger, envy, greed, jealousy, all that, and it's very, very unpleasant, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So mantra and spiritual practices are meant to remove those things, remove the lust, anger, greed, and so forth. And then your pure spiritual awareness, your God consciousness, we call Krishna consciousness, it shines forward. And within that consciousness, there is a manifestation of divine qualities because we're all spiritual beings. So it's like, it's so beautiful, we all have divine qualities. Mm-hmm. All the divine qualities God has, we have, because we're created in His image, we're part of Him. And so when you awaken spiritually, those qualities begin to manifest. Now, just imagine a world in which people are manifesting kindness, forgiveness, compassion, tolerance, benevolence, patience. Like, that would be an amazing world.
An amazing world, yeah.
And a world in which people are manifesting lust, anger, greed, envy, etc. It's not a good world, and you can't expect it to be a good world just by material advancement. So that's the importance of spiritual practice, not only for ourselves, but
for world.
For world. And we're all affecting the world. Like, for example, I teach a course on forgiveness. So people often have difficulty with resentment. So I ask a simple question. Does the world, these are people coming who have issues with resentment. They can't give up. So I ask, well, does the world need more forgiveness or more resentment? And of course they say, well, it needs more forgiveness. I say, okay, so you don't want to give it more forgiveness? You say, I can't let go?
Yeah. And I hear you, and I can't stop thinking about, well, if this is so, and the answer is in every one of us, because I truly believe that forgiveness and love and compassion, it's a set of qualities that we all have inside.
Yeah, we do.
So how, I understand these weapons, as you call it, like we do meditation, we do some chanting, and we do some, some medicine, plant medicines, and we can get there. But how can, in your point of view, how can we make it bigger? How can we spread this? I don't know if it's like a health issue. I truly believe we are like a sick society.
Yeah, we are.
How can we deal with that?
The answer is easy. We have to become healthy ourselves. And this is my personal experience, because I've been doing this since I was 19. So I've had a lot of time to work on myself. And as I've improved, as I've become more purified and more what we call Krishna conscious, God conscious, I've seen the effect it has on other people, because I'm becoming more of a beacon of light. And so, as when I was younger, I had the experience of being with people more evolved, and how that just lifted me up. And then as I became more evolved, it became more and more obvious to me that my realization of my practice, my personal integrity, who I was as a person, was the most important thing as a teacher. And that I could never get people to do what I'm not doing. I could never get people to be who I am not, even though I could give them the knowledge. So that's first and foremost the most important thing, that we have our own spiritual daily practice, that every day we're getting better. And as you said, the manifestation of these divine qualities, the more they're manifesting, the more it's affecting people positively. So now if there's more of us who are elevating ourselves spiritually, there's more light in the world. If we're just little lights, then there's a lot of darkness. So that's number one, the most important thing. And I think a lot of people are looking for solutions outside themselves. Like we have to change some law or whatever. That may be useful, but it's not fundamental, because we can change things externally, but if we ourselves are contributing in some way by the lack of proper consciousness, it's not going to solve the problem. So for myself, for example, I chant this mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That is the most transforming thing in my life. That mantra is so powerful. So I do that every day for about 2 hours, 16 times 108. And I've done that for 54 years, and I haven't missed a day. Well, I haven't finished today, but I will finish. So the experience of doing that and doing it in deep meditation is more powerful and purifying than anything that I've experienced. And the result of that has been transforming my life over the years and helping me transcend the influences that pull us all down. Because the influences are always there. They're trying to pull us all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really, it's like a shield, like a protective shield. So if I'm going to be a teacher and I'm going to tell people, you should be forgiving, compassionate, kind, patient, tolerant, I have to be. And so through my own spiritual practice, I'm able to achieve that and then live that. And then naturally, you teach. You know the story, as one person said, I don't know who it was, he said, I teach all day and sometimes in the evening I speak. Yeah, something like that.
I always say that the good example is the only way of teaching.
Yeah.
It's not through your words, it's through your what
'Cause
what do you do?
Who's going to believe you if you say be kind and you're always angry?
You're a math guy.
Yeah.
So I know everyone's here for the chanting, not for the interview. So I'm really loving your words and I think everything, your energy, your posture, everything, it's like in a loving peace. So just what is your message for our audience? We're building this movement like the Great Life.
Yeah.
We call it the Great Life, and we have 4 pillars, which are joy, well-being, love, and abundance.
Yeah.
And so we want to spread these messages. We want to create a community of people living their lives in happiness.
Yeah.
So if you want to share, if you can share something to them.
You have about 10 hours? I have like 13 workshops. I have to choose from all of those. One of the things that I think is so important, especially today, in our society, there are very strong material influences. We want to be respected by the labels we wear, the cars we drive, the neighborhoods we live in, the jobs we have, and it's become extremely important. And we're not the physical, and so we're none of those things. And so it's really important that people don't buy into that. And it's so easy to buy into that. And the spiritual is what is so important. These material things, they're necessary, but they can be very big diversions from our spiritual life. And most people put the material over the spiritual, when it should be the other way around, that the spiritual is most important. So my message is, don't get caught up in this material flow, because society is, it's telling us how to think. It's telling us how to show ourselves in quite a false way. It's trying to sell us on this illusion that you can buy your way into happiness, or you can succeed materially. You hit a certain plateau and then bing, you're going to be happy, and it's all a lie. No one has achieved that. And in fact, probably when you finally hit the plateau that you work so hard for, you'll become depressed because you realize that is not satisfying
You
you.
have nothing.
You're not there.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
what you thought, and you feel more empty inside. So I think it's extremely important that people not only understand this, but practice it and understand it deeply, that what is most important is your spiritual life. What is going to make you the happiest is your spiritual life. We are spiritual beings, and life is meant for realizing that. That's the whole point, self-realization, God-realization. And our modern society has done a really good job of just pushing us away from that and making us think, no, that's not the goal. The goal is to become number one at this or that. And that's okay, but ultimately, we're all part of God, and that everything we do is meant to connect to Him. Whatever success you want materially, at least connect it to Him, and then it will achieve perfection. But if it's just for yourself, you're going to let yourself down. You know, when I was young, I had a really amazing experience because I grew up near Beverly Hills, and you all know about Beverly Hills. But above Beverly Hills, there's a place called Bel Air. It's even richer. You know, it's up in the mountains, and the homes are like amazing. And so I worked for a drugstore, and I would deliver drugs. People would call up drugs, whatever they needed, toothpaste, you know, whatever. Yeah. And the higher I got up and the wealthier I got up, I perceived that people seemed less happy. And I was just 16, you know, so what did I know? But I could see that. And later on in my life, I had opportunities to travel in Mexico and do some missionary work with very simple people, and they seemed a lot happier. And then I have an amazing experience. I used to take tours of India, and I'd love to go to villages, because the village life in India, it's pretty diametrically opposed to our life here in its simplicity. So you have a family living in one hut, which is about 3 or 4 meters by 3 or 4 meters.
Wow.
And so that's the living room, the dining room, the
bedroom.
kitchen, the bedrooms, you know, and everything's in the rafters, right? And then they have a little backyard, which is actually more their kitchen, you know, they cook outside. And the reason I like to bring people there is we're bringing people who are living quite a nice life in the West, and we're going into this village, which is like extremely simple, and the way these people are living is extremely simple. And so if you just look at how they're living from your Western perspective, you would say, oh, these people are not happy. So when I bring the group in, I say, just look at their face. Look at their surroundings, look at their face, and you'll see it doesn't match, because they have big smiles, they're so happy to see you, they welcome you into their homes. And you're thinking, like, there's like something wrong with this picture. You're supposed to be depressed and miserable, but I'm the one who's depressed and miserable, and I got a big mansion on top of the hill, and you have a little hut, and you're happy. And I love to bring people to this, because I don't have to say anything, because it's obvious. And people really, you know, they get time to deeply introspect when they see that, because it's an experience. It's not just something they read in a book that you'll be happy if you live simply. So I think from my experience, everybody understands this, but society it's pushing us so much to think that if I just get ahead of my neighbors, or if I just get upward mobility in my corporation, or if I just get another zero on my bank balance,
better salary,
then I'll reach it. And everybody knows it's not true, but still everybody's doing it. And I think those who want to be spiritual really have to be able to work through that and see that and be true to themselves, because they know it. But it's so easy, isn't it, to go shopping and think, well, I'll buy happiness in a product. No, you won't. You will be happy when you connect to yourself spiritually. You will be happy when you're forgiving, when you're kind, compassionate. Not when you go out and buy a lot of stuff. It doesn't work, but we're caught up in that, you know. So that's my message, you know. Give attention and energy to your spiritual life. That's good for you, and it's good for the world, and we need more people doing that. And this world is going to try to just cover you, right?
Yeah. That sounds like an invitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we want to thank you. Thank you from our heart, in the name of Oscar and I, La Gran Vida, from my family. You has been such a blessing in our life. And I hope to see you soon over here.
Yeah, I'd love to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Muchas
you.
gracias a todos.
Gracias a todos.
Nos vemos la próxima.